Good afternoon. This is Howard Sandifer, and you're on Black Muse. Today, we have a very special guest, the one and only Dr. Rochelle Sennet, the Associate Professor of Piano in the School of Music and the inaugural Dean of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion for the College of Arts at the University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign campus. Rochelle, good afternoon. How are you?
Good afternoon. Thank you so much, Howard, for having me. I'm doing wonderful.
So good to see you, and thank you for spending time. As I was reading your bio, I must say it is one impressive background, the things that you've already accomplished and the things that you're involved in now. And let's just jump right in. First of all, could you talk a little bit about your work at the University of Illinois at Champaign? I know you've got two major job titles, responsibilities. Could you talk a little bit about both of those, please?
Sure. So I joined the faculty back in 2008 as a professor, and I joined the piano faculty, and so I've been there almost 15 years now. And along the way, I just became more aware of my experiences of being a faculty member, working with my students. And around 2016 is when I became tenured, promoted to associate professor. And I was looped into diversity, equity, and inclusion conversations. A new committee was formed. And I was looped in. I was invited, but what I stayed around is because I met some wonderful people, not just in music, the arts, across the board in College of Applied Arts, and it's people who are really devoted to the work of diversity, equity, and inclusion. And so it was in 2021, I took on the role of Associate Dean for Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion for the college, which represents the units of music, theater, art and design, dance, urban planning, architecture, landscape architecture, and then Krannert Center, Krannert Art Museum, and Japan House. Oh, I got them all. Yay. Yeah, wonderful conversations with everyone. And so, yeah, I'm just thrilled and honored to be able to serve in this role as well.
That is so wonderful. Congratulations on that great work that you're doing there.
Thank you.
Let me ask, as a pianist, I know, so we're going to talk about that. I know you're a performer as well, a scholar, but let's start at the beginning. How did you get into music? When did you start playing piano?
Started when I was young, but I don't have a fabulous story, unfortunately. I just saw it on TV. I just saw a pianist on TV. I thought it looked cool. And then at the same time, I grew up in the church, and my first piano teacher was also the organist there. So I remember watching her. And so I begged my parents actually to take piano lessons. They said no initially because they figured a kid is she's a kid, she's going to change her mind. But I kept at it. I kept persisting. And so they eventually relented. And I found out later they rented a piano. They didn't tell me that. The piano was rented for 6 months, and then they purchased it later. So maybe she might change her mind. But I happened to see a pianist on TV, and I just was mesmerized. I don't remember who it was, but I just remember flipping through channels and coming across a concert pianist on TV. And so that's how I got started.
Wow. And interestingly, did you start with classical music? I mean,
I did. I started in classical music, but I grew up in the church where it was common for, people played without music. And so, I grew up in an all Black church. So I'm grateful for the experiences of being a church musician. I started playing in church just only a few years after I started taking piano lessons. So I would play along with my piano teacher. She'd play on organ, and I'd play along with her on piano. And we'd be up in the choir loft, and people would say, well, they couldn't see my head because I was very small, and say, who's playing piano? And so, but they would give me hymns to play with it was the traditional service. But then eventually no one told me as a child that it was unusual to play without music. So I just eventually stopped using music because it was just too much trouble to turn pages. And so that's where just the idea of playing from memory in ways that one would expect. So solo music, you expect that, but with playing with other choir with choir members playing entire cantatas from memory was just no one told me that's unusual until I got to other circles and got much older. That's very unusual. So and I didn't grow up with classical music, but I grew up hearing gospel music, traditional hymns sung by predominantly choirs, Black choirs. And so grateful for those experiences.
That is a great story. On the contrary, it's a great background. Rochelle, where's home? Where did you grow up in? What city?
I grew up in Beaumont, Texas, which is originally that's where I'm from, and I grew up there. And it's about an hour away from Houston, so Southeast Texas. Okay. Parents are originally from Louisiana. They migrated. Both of their families migrated to Southeast Texas, where there were more jobs. There weren't as many job opportunities in Louisiana at the time. So family moved, and so I was born in Texas.
How about undergraduate work? Where did you go to school there?
So undergraduate, I received my degree from San Francisco Conservatory, which music, which was quite a change from Texas. So I learned, and I loved it. I remember the first time I went to San Francisco, just embraced everyone, came from so many different backgrounds, and I absolutely loved it. I soaked it all in. So I'm still grateful when I do have chances to go back to the Bay Area from time to time. I was just there last year doing a performance, and grateful for my experiences there. So as an undergrad, that's where I received my degree. And then master's degrees I graduated from University of Michigan, Ann Arbor. And then after that, I proceeded to receive a artist diploma at Texas Christian University. Mm-hmm. And then after that, doctorate degree from University of Illinois. I finished that in 3 years, and then I was hired as a faculty member right after that.
Studies have shown Black professors are underrepresented at the top ranks of the education ecosystem. Why do you think that problem exists, and what can we do to correct that problem?
Ooh, that's a tough one. I wish I had the answer for that, the all-encompassing answer. That's a difficult one. Yes, just across the board in higher education, yes, you have so few Black women represented, Black people represented. So I'm grateful that there's more awareness. I do think that every locations are different, but I'm glad that there's more awareness of this, and particularly given recent events over the last couple of years and recent tragedies, that there's more visibility. It's because of this that people are more aware of this. There's really, in a lot of ways, there are certain times where it's not always a welcoming space. Mm-hmm. Honestly. And that's what I would say to young people as well, that if my advice, if going into higher education, don't let anyone tell you what you cannot do, because I know what that's like, and it's not a great feeling, even before I got to pursued my higher education degrees. But if music is what you truly love, then you find those people that support you in the work in what you're doing. And also, if that's what you want to do, then do that. So I wish I had the solution to that, but I do know it's not always a welcoming place. It could be you realize there aren't a lot of people that look like you. You're often playing music by, say, J.S. Bach, and often in ways that are traditional. People aren't rethinking on ways to play traditionally classical music. And so I personally love the music of J.S. Bach. And I'm also thinking, why can't we also have these scholarly, deep conversations about the scholarship of Black composers, because there are many, and why can't we also? It doesn't have to be an either or, is what my thought is about this. So I unfortunately don't have a solution, but what we can do is just continuing. All I can do is offer my contribution, just continuing to show up, be there for our students, our Black students, particularly, to know that we're there for them. I'm there for them. And it's not going to be easy, but if you love it, then keep doing it.
You've got a wonderful project that I'd asked you about before, and I really want to hear more about it.
Bach to Black.
Bach to Black. Please tell us about that. That is really, really a wonderful project.
Back to Black, the conception of that actually happened, not the title, but the conception of it happened when I was an undergraduate in California. And I became aware, there weren't, from experiences doing competitions as a child and being in the spaces that, there's not a lot of representation when it comes to Black classical musicians. And so I became even more aware of that. I was always aware, but became even more aware of it. And then I was like, well, I'd like to, so then somehow I got the idea of, are there any Black composers? And so and then I discovered the first music I discovered was George Walker and the piano concerto, and the Black woman by the name of Natalie Hindras, who was a brilliant pianist. Oh my gosh, I was mesmerized by the sound, her playing, but also the music itself. Like, oh my gosh, I got to learn more. Who is this? And so that's where the seed was planted. And then at the same time, I had studying piano, and also we were taking the pianists were studying also harpsichord and forte piano. So I'm grateful. I also, had a year to study harpsichord, and I was reintroduced. Her name was Lorette Goldberg. Rest in peace. Her name was Lorette Goldberg. She was a wonderful harpsichord teacher that reintroduced the music of J.S. Bach to me, because before it felt like a chore with previous instruction, but it was just the way she had just brought the music became alive for me. And so it was around this, those things were happening at the same time. So that's where it was sort of planted. And then the title came later, but it just happened over the years. I was often playing music by J.S. Bach. I often say J.S., people say Bach, but I like to say J.S. because I think he had sons that were fantastic too. So I always, my students know I'll affectionately say J.S. for short. Playing the music by J.S. and playing music by Black composers. I've always often pairing music that I've been doing that off and on for a while. And so why don't I turn this into a recording? So that's how that happened. And really it just, in some of the early conversations, when I received earlier feedback about this when presenting at conferences and requesting funding, how just it kind of shaped, in some way it was actually good. Some of the early criticism happened, oh, why are you playing Bach? And just how there was misunderstanding about that. And so which was great that it happened, because it also encouraged, I felt compelled to write my own liner notes, just to say, this is about facilitating, just doing my part to help facilitate conversations, which in many circles are already happening. And so I find just also what happened, what led to this Bach to Black was when I'm playing music by specifically JS, that the audience looks a certain way. And then often if I'm invited to do be part of a program that involves Black composers, that the audience looks a different way. And we talk about audience diversity, but in real time, we don't always see it realistically. And so this is sort of might be by deliberately pairing. So each suite I paired specifically with in terms of key, or just telling some, or just even a way to shock the listener, paired with every single one of the suites. So the first Black pianist I saw perform live was Leon Bates. Yes. Who was a bodybuilder also. And so that also inspired me because I also lift heavy weights too. So I was watching him too. So that came later, by the way. But yes, Leon was the first Black pianist. And then it was around Awodaji Pratt also, who was the first Black pianist to win a major international piano competition. For me, that was huge to see the representation, because for so long I had not. So and then it wasn't until later that I came across Natalie Hindras' recording, who was Leon Bates' teacher, by the way. And so I was thrilled that I got to meet both of them on different occasions, and it just so phenomenal their stories that they tell with their careers, both of them.
Got it. Let's do this, if you don't mind, Rochelle. I would like to share a video with our audience of you performing one of the pieces from Bach to Black. Let's take a listen. magnificent recording. And we can find that particular piece by Johann Sebastian Bach on your recording project, Bach to Black, which also includes compositions by Black composers Ulysses Kay, Samuel Coleridge Taylor, and others. Where can we find these recordings?
So physical CDs you can find on either directly through Albany Records or through Amazon. You can find it on Amazon, the CDs. If you're a streamer, you can also find it on any of the streaming services, Spotify, iTunes, all of them.
Got it. You're a scholar, you're a performer. When do you have time to, I was just thinking all of this work that you're doing, this is amazing. And additionally, you're part of a duo as well, correct?
Yes. Duo Memdi formed in 2010. Just the idea of, I spoke earlier about me playing from memory. So it's we play music by underrepresented composers, just the idea of violin, piano together, but also playing from memory, which is not something, it's a bit rare with chamber music, with chamber music. And so that's where that came from, because no one has told me as a kid that's weird to do that. So we turned it into a duo. And luckily my chamber music partner is very much on board, that we feel, there's, in certain ways, it's something powerful about connecting with the music, and there's not a barrier of a score. And so, you can find videos of us. We premiered James Lee's violin piano sonata #2 a few years ago, which you can find on YouTube. We did some music by Clarence White, Black composer, like his rendition of "Nobody Knows the Trouble I've Seen." So that's where it formed, is that we did some outreach Michigan a few years ago to promote the idea of more inclusivity and bring people to the chamber music program at Blue Lake Fine Arts Camp, which is where the program, where we met. But yes, that's the idea behind Duo Memdi, Mem as in MEM, memory, and then DI for diversity.
Excellent, outstanding. Can you also let us know about any upcoming performances that you might have coming up?
Yes, I have a performance
next. Come out and see you. We got to come out and support you as an artist as well. Just like this.
Oh, if your audience wants to go to St. Louis, well, Ferguson. So many of you are familiar with Ferguson. And so there's a wonderful Baptist church, a landmark church there. And so the idea of audience diversity, I think is really important, not just to talk about it, but to actually do it. So there's a program, Bach Society and Pianos for People are pairing to bring me there. They graciously invited me to do a recital there, and it'll be at Ferguson at the Baptist church there next month, which is just outside of St. Louis. And Pianos for People, for many who don't know, may not be familiar, it's a program that was started around 10 years ago. It provides piano lessons for people who may not have easier access to have pianos, to pianos. And they donate pianos to certain families as well. And so, again, because this is so important to be about audience diversity. I just think that's so wonderful that we have people that at the Bach Society of St. Louis, they've been wonderful. They really are about reaching out. I mean, really reaching out, not just a one-time thing. And this is how we want to make sure that we are bringing music to people, regardless of background. And so that would be next month.
Got it. Is there anything that you would just like to share with us about you, Rochelle? You're a fascinating artist, musician, scholar.
I think it's important. I know there's more conversations about self-care. I also just want to add that and my thoughts to that as well. It really often we're doing a lot of things, reaching out to a lot of people, but it just really what helps to keep all of this in perspective. But because you're dealing with lots of things, even at higher education is not always the easiest place to navigate, particularly for Black people. And I think self-care matters. Really finding something that you love that's outside of your job, it matters. And so for me, it's working out. And that's what I was just getting to talk to cool people about the work is what keeps me going. But yes, can emphasize. I can also chime in and say self-care, breathing, it matters.
Right, right.
Particularly when one is doing diversity, equity, and inclusion. Access work is very easy to get caught in, to succumb to racial battle fatigue. I know that term has been coined. A racial battle fatigue. It's very real. But again, what keeps me going is just making sure that I'm okay, so we can make sure everybody else is taken care of. And that includes my students.
Dr. Rochelle Sennet, thank you. This has been a very wonderful opportunity to learn about you and the work that you're doing. And let me say continued success on all your efforts. And we're going to be looking and listening.
Thank you so much. Thank you. It's an honor to be here.
We'll end our program today with another performance by Dr. Rochelle Sennet, Barcarolle from In the Bottoms Suite by R. Nathaniel Dett.